we want to welcome you all to this exciting first panel of PAWmicon. This is the 9th annual. I want to tell you, I had such a big smile on my face watching that intro. I love every single person on this panel, and we're so honored. Helen Woodward is so honored to have you all here. But my big honor right now is to introduce our moderator of this panel, Larissa Wall. A lot of you probably know her from Hallmark Channel's Happily Adoption Ever After. It is happy. Adoption Ever After on the Home and Family Show on Hallmark. You'll also probably know her from the Kitten Bowl, the Cat Bowl, American Rescue Dog Show, Tales of Joy. She is somebody who is absolutely, all her work comes from her heart. She's been rescuing animals forever, from dogs to rabbits to stray cats. She did emergency runs for California Wildlife Center. She has done things like apparently jumping into shopping mall ponds to save baby ducks. This is a woman who truly means everything she does from the heart. She's been a news anchor, a field reporter, a journalist, and has always been the specialist at every market that she's worked in on the animal welfare group. So I want to welcome Larissa Wall, and thank you for being our moderator today.
Yay!
Thank you, Jessica. Gosh, some of those stories I'd forgotten about, but yes, they are all true. And in fact, just yesterday, a bird flew in my house randomly. I didn't even have the window open. I had the doggy door open. Somehow a bird got in and I had to help it get out. But it just, they always find me, I've always thought.
I knew it would be safe if it flew into your house. So
yeah, well, yes, we were trying our best, and he did fly away, so I was like, phew. So I thought, oh no, I'm gonna have to run to the wildlife center again. So yes, thank you. I'm so happy to be here. I really appreciate those kind words, and I'm so happy to be moderating this, not only because it's PAWmicon and it's for Helen Woodward, which is an amazing organization, but because I'm joined by 3 panelists that I adore, and I've met all in person. We've got Kathy Satula, who, as you said, is the EP of Kitten Bowl. We're going into the 8th Kitten Bowl this year on Hallmark Channel, and Kitten Bowl is not just an amazing show that obviously reminds people that kittens and cats around the country need to be adopted, but they've also led to thousands and thousands of adoptions because a lot of rescues and shelters throw Kitten Bowl parties. So thousands of cats have been able to find their forever homes because of Kitten Bowl. And Kitten Bowl is not the only thing that Kathy has worked on. She has worked on so much. She's an Emmy-nominated TV producer. She's done 2 Christmas specials for Hallmark. She's done 2 cat bowls for Hallmark. And she herself has 2 cats and a dog. So thank you, Kathy, for being here. So excited to have you. And then Bill, who I met because of Michael Levitt, who we'll get to in a second. Bill was at the last year's filming of American Rescue Dog Show, and you are just an amazing icon. I mean, anybody in the animal world, anybody in the TV world, especially if you're working with animals in TV, knows who you are. You have done so much. I couldn't even say the list of everything, but stage, TV, film. You are a trainer. You have worked with animals on set and behind set, or behind the scenes, I should say. And if anybody knows how to work with an animal on a filming production, it is you. So thank you so much for everything that you have done as a director and trainer as well. And you are 2011 Tony honoree, and of course, such titles as Legally Blonde, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, A Christmas Story, the musical. I mean, the list goes on and on. So thank you for joining us today. Can't wait to hear some of your stories. And Michael Levitt, my mentor, I love you. You are amazing. You are the EP of American Rescue Dog Show on Hallmark, which went from a 1-night event to a 2-night event, to another 2-night event. You know, each year it's grown and grown, and the amount of humans and animals that it has impacted is just enormous. You know, it is a night to really remember that rescue animals deserve the spotlight, and it shines a light on the imperfect perfection that rescue dogs are, and what they bring to us humans, and what we can give back to them. And of course, American Rescue Dog Show is just one thing that you've done. You've done so many shows. You really inspire so many people, and your specialty is live and unscripted programming, which toss in those animals and it makes for a lot of laughs. So can't wait to get more into that. But I also want to say that not only do you do this for work, you walk the walk and talk the talk, because you have 3 rescue babies of your own. They're all pitties and pitty mixes. One is a very special case, which hopefully we can talk about during this. And I'm just really thankful for all of you being here and sharing your love with rescue animals, because animals on set isn't a new thing, but rescue animals on set being recognized for the fact that they are just as good as any animal, if not better, is a newer phenomenon. So thank you, because without all 3 of you, that wouldn't be the case. So let's start with kind of opening up to all 3 of you just about when you realized that you wanted to work with animals. So we'll start kind of basic and we'll get into more of the fun behind the scenes stuff. All right, does anybody want to start, or do you want me to pick someone to start? How would you prefer?
You pick.
Okay, let's start with you, Bill.
I grew up on a farm as an only child, and my best friends were my cat, my dog, and my rabbit. Of course, being a shy kid, I wanted to be an actor when I grew up. So when I was applying for colleges, there's a theater here in Connecticut called the Goodspeed Opera House. And so I became a technical apprentice, building sets for free just to be around professional actors. And one summer they were doing a new musical that had a dog in the script. And after they announced it, they realized, oh, well, we'll call a dog trainer from New York. Too expensive. All the people on the paid staff threatened to quit. They needed a sucker. And I was that 19-year-old kid that was brought into the office and offered a part in a play if I would find a dog and train it for the show. Of course, I said yes. And I heard they had cheap dogs at the animal shelter. And that play was the original production of Annie. And I adopted the original Sandy from an animal shelter, the Connecticut Humane Society. And a year later, the show opened on Broadway, and I became a world famous animal trainer at the age of 20. And stuck with it ever since.
That's an amazing story. That is one of those stories where you just have to follow the path, because you never know where it's going to lead.
Well, in addition, and it really is, they rescue us. I was an aimless 20-year-old who this rescue dog gave me a career and a focus, because I had the skills, and it turned, it gave me my life's mission.
Kathy, how about you?
Well, I had kittens and a puppy and a dog when I was younger. And, working in TV, as I got older, you didn't have a lot of time for animals, and because you were always on sets and working 15, 20 hours a day. And I guess back in 2015, I got a call from my friends over at Three Ball, and they were like, do you want to produce Kitten Ball? And I was like, do you have to ask? And so, the first time that we were on set, it's kind of crazy because you have like 100 kittens that you're kind of, switching in and out with teams and things like that. And we didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what to expect as a running a show. And it is the actual ultimate reality show, because you never know what they're going to do, how they're going to react. Especially kittens and cats, you know how they are. You expect them to do one thing and they do the complete opposite. But I've always been a strong animal advocate. My first kitten I got because, this is so funny, a guy I was dating had 2 cats. You could say he was like the ultimate cat dad. And he was like, you could really get a kitten again. Like you work and everything, but it would be a great thing. So I started with 1 kitten. And then a friend of mine adopted 2 kittens together. They were siblings. And I saw how well they worked together. And I was like, I have to get my other cat a pal. So I found this amazing other cat, basically. He was more of an adult cat than a kitten when he came in. And he was brought into a shelter with 3 kittens, and they kept saying, oh my God, like she came in with her kittens and has been taking care of them, and this woman dropped them off because they were living in a garage. And I went to see this female cat, turned her over, and it was my Max, who was actually a male cat. So he was actually the baby, the mom instead of the dad. He was taking care of these 3 kittens. And so after that, I was like, okay, if I can, and they are the best of buds. They now have each other. That's why I always say, if you have one, you should have 2 because they keep each other company. So that's, and then of course I got my dog, who's my older cat, Max. Him and the dog, they sleep together, they hang together, they do everything together. So it's like, I think my cats have turned my dog into a cat. So
we all know the story of adopting 1 and then ending up with 8. That's the story of my life. Michael Levitt, how about you? What was it? I know you're a huge animal lover and advocate, but what was it that kind of turned you from loving animals to working with them in film?
Well, you know, it's interesting. You say I'm a huge animal lover and advocate, but I have to say 10, 11 years ago, if I had been driving down the street and seen a dog running loose, I probably would have driven right past that dog. So it's really amazing how my world has changed and my view of animals have changed over the years. And it really started in 2000. And sadly, my sister was dying of cancer. It was at that time that I knew that I wanted to bring a dog into my life. I had had a dog as a kid, but I was a little too young to fully appreciate the experience. And I took my best friend and colleague, who we'll talk about, Jill Gallardi. It was my birthday, and we went to a Petco pet adoption. And there were all these dogs there yapping and barking. And in the corner was this sweet little dog in his kennel. And I asked to see this dog, and the lady said, you know, get that dog out. She wasn't very great, to be honest. And they got the dog out, and it was apparently it was a pit bull. And my friend Jill said, oh, no, that's a pit bull. And I said, well, wait a minute. And the dog walked over to me, very gently sat in my lap, looking out the other way, basically saying, rub me. And all the other dogs were yapping, and this dog was very quiet and docile, and all these little kids came up to him, and he started licking their face, and she goes, okay, maybe. So I'm like, this is an amazing dog. So then I said, well, it's the first one. I'm looking at, you know what, I'm gonna think he's amazing. I'm gonna think about it. We'll be back. And I left, and I couldn't stop thinking about this dog. And I called the rescue via Petco to make sure the dog was still available. And my plan was to go back and see the dog with my partner the following week, my partner, Mark. And it was at that time that we got a call that my sister took a turn for the worse. And I said, oh, I can't worry about a dog right now. I got to go be by my sister at her bed. She was in hospice. So I left Mark crying, driving down the freeway, thinking how horrible this is and how my life is falling apart. And 4 hours later, Mark walked through the door with that dog.
Oh.
So he went and adopted this dog based on a photo that I had shared with him. And like Bill said, they rescue us. Who rescued who? And this dog came into my life at a time that I needed him the most. His name is Trooper. As he rocked our world, and a year later, we ended up adopting Nelson, who's right under here, who hopefully will make a cameo, but I'm feeding him little treats to keep him quiet. But here's the deal. I got heavily involved in rescue as a result of these 2 dogs. I basically took a year off of producing just to save dogs because I was so passionate about it. But I realized as a rescuer, I'm saving one at a time, which is amazing. But as a producer, I could do so much more. And that's when I started creating rescue-themed programming to hopefully make a difference on a national level.
Well, and that's what I would like to get to now. I would like to find out, you know, it's hard. I have so many questions for all of you guys. But I think at this point, I would love to ask each and every one of you if it was easy getting the rescue aspect of animals on set approved, or if you ran up into a lot of hardship with that. Bill, I'll start with you because you kind of started with the rescue animals on set, you know, before.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when I was a kid and Benji became popular, the first film, the story was that was a rescue dog. and the world was in disbelief that a rescue dog could be that well trained. Fast forward 20 years, the only reason I chose a rescue dog was that the theater gave me $35 to find the dog, buy it, and feed it all summer. So again, someone said they were cheap dogs at the animal shelter. So when Sandy, the original Sandy, made it on Broadway, in live performance 8 times a week, it was a new story, you know? And I became known as one of the trainers who could take rescue dogs and turn them into working dogs. Fast forward another 40 years, and now that's not a story anymore. I'm so pleased, you know, so many other trainers now in our industry are using rescue dogs. I mean, it's not a story anymore. So that, I feel like we've grown, and we've started to accept at least rescue dogs are not throwaways and not things that we have to worry about, but they're actually gold. They're just golden.
They are. Kathy, what about you? I know you entered it slightly a different way, but and you started working with Hallmark Channel, which are all about, you know, thankfully we love Hallmark because they are all about getting animals adopted. Did you run into any difficulties with working with rescue animals?
Not really, because we work in conjunction with North Shore Animal League America every year on Kitten Bowl and all of our specials. And they do such an amazing job because they are nationwide and even internet. Well, they went to Puerto Rico and rescue from like things like the hurricanes that they have. So when I came into this, I was like, at first I was like, oh my God, are we going to have enough animals on set to play kitten football, feline football? And they pulled up in their amazing van, their huge motor unit, and with like 100 kittens. And at first I was really overwhelmed because I was like, wow, look how many kittens need homes. And so, you know, being a little nervous, like, you know, okay, they're used to being like with each other, but as soon as you put them up on our feline football set, they immediately start exploring and playing, and you know, they're just amazing, and they just win your heart. I mean,
Yeah.
and again, you know, over the years that we've done Kitten Bowl, I think North Shore has, you know, they've gotten like 60,000 kittens and puppies and cats that have appeared not only on our show, but through their Kitten Bowl parties every year that they throw. And I think there's like 700 Kitten Bowl parties that they use with different shelters. So it's just amazing to me how many animals out there, like you don't even realize how many animals are in shelters. And so I just hope people, you know, with the work that all of us do and that you do, Larissa, that people just go to shelters and pick up take an animal home, because they all need to find their forever loving homes. So
Thank you very much. Michael, you, before American Rescue Dog Show, you had already done some live, you know, rescue shows. You did Fox's Cause for Paws. And so did you, when you were first kind of getting into this space, did you run into issues where people thought, what? You want to do TV shows about rescue dogs?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So as Kathy said, you know, Hallmark, they're all about, as we all know, rescuing animals. So that process was a lot easier. But when I first brought the idea of Cause for Paws to Fox, which was a prime time rescue-thon, and the format of that show was that celebrities would feature adoptable dogs on the show. So Betty White would come on with a senior dog and talk about how great they are, and the Osbournes would talk about special needs, and Miley Cyrus would talk about pit bulls and debunking the pit bull myth. And so people then the viewers would watch, and then they could go to Fox's website, look at a profile of that dog, and then apply to adopt that dog through the rescue that sponsored that specific dog. And, you know, we hear this saying in our life that we're all replaceable. And I know that we all are in our jobs. However, I do think that very few people can do what we do in these roles of producing rescue themed shows. And I think the reason is because we come from this world. Kathy, in your case, you really immersed yourself and learned it. But obviously we're creating entertainment, but we're working with live animals, and we're working with animals that aren't trained, like the kind that Bill may work with quite often. So, hi Nelson, you want to make a cameo? So there was some skepticism and some concerns about liability and all that kind of stuff. But I think with my passion, I was able to, they trusted me because they knew of my rescue background and how that would serve me well to ensure that the animals and the people would be safe. By the way, I'm going to mute and go grab some treats for Nelson because he's acting up a little bit. My
Great.
sweet little boy. All right, I'll be right back.
And so this next question I want to ask is actually, we'll start with Bill again, because this is kind of your specialty. You know, I think just like little kids working on set, there are rules. You know, there are rules about how many hours they can work and, you know, what time of day they can work and things like that. And I think it would be really interesting to tell everybody who's listening what some of the rules are with animals. And then I want to hear the biggest, funniest fail that you've had on or behind the scenes with an animal on set.
Well, interestingly enough, there are no rules. There are no rules, and I'm an advocate for that because there are unions protecting the humans, unions protecting the children. The only laws that are protecting animals are the local anti-cruelty laws. So often trainers are asked to do things that are not in the best interest of the animals. And if you're not a responsible person and say, no, I'm not going to do that, ultimately animals can be harmed. And it's a difficult place to be, to say no to a producer. Now, you take a channel like Hallmark, who is transparent and who asks that question first. But that's really one of the exceptions to most of the places I work with. And I say no a lot because doing it right for the animals might mean it's going to take longer, which costs money. They don't care how many hours they work. You got to get the shot. And I try to make people aware of that. You know, the American Humane Association is on set. They help the trainers get what we need to get the shot. But they have no power to stop the producer from it. I mean, all they would do is not get the seal. But, so it's up to every individual person or trainer to look for their animals. And so I don't take a job until I get a script. And I see what they want and I ask them in writing what they want, because you can't train an animal to show up and then change course and expect it to go with it. You can't show up with an animal and if it's a hot day, work. So it's a slippery slope. I hate to say it, but it's shows like this and people, like the producers we have here who are conscious, who are educating other producers on how to work with animals, because when you get it right, it's the best entertainment we have. But there's really some thought that has to go into it. And I'm known as a pain in the ass in the industry. And
that's why you're the best.
Only because, and what we do is if we give the animals the things they need to do their job, we get it quicker, which saves the producer money, and you get a better shot. So it's in their best interest as well. But we have a lot of decades of history where animals were just things we used. So I encourage people to think about that. Ask questions. If you see an animal in a film that doesn't look happy, write the producer and say, what's going on there? So, but again, working hours, temperature. I get a dressing room on every set because they need a quiet space to relax. And when you say that to some producers are like, no, you can't have a dressing room. The humans have dressing rooms. Okay, well then hire somebody else. So a quiet space, rehearsal with the actors. My animals are trained to do things for me. Can you give me 5 minutes to work with the actor to make a bond of some sort? Those things are things that we insist on ahead of time, because you just hate to get on set and find yourself in a situation where you have to say no. So being informed about the industry so you know what's coming up and then making sure you follow through with it is the way that we keep animals safe on set.
That's fascinating. You know, I have to be honest, coming from Hallmark side of life, animals are always put first. And Michael Levitt will, I'm sure, can mention this too. You know, that was shooting American Rescue Dog Show. Us humans worked around the animals. However, you're right, that's not going to be the case for everything. And it's so interesting and important to bring that to light so people are aware of that. So thank you for that. And thank you for doing right and for being a difficult person to work with, because it means you're making the animals the priority. So thank you. Kathy, you know, again, we come from the Hallmark side. So obviously the animals are always kind of put first. Is there anything that you think would be interesting for people to know in terms of hours they can work, or how many kittens are actually filmed for, you know, 20 kittens? You know, are they replaced, or how does that work?
Well, we do 3 games. We have our 2 playoff games each year, and then our championship game. And so we have 4 teams. So we pre-pick the kittens. And we work really closely with North Shore Animal League. Everything that we do, whether we're putting cute little apparatus like our hide and seek touchdown tunnels where the kittens run through like a little tunnel to get into the end zone, or whether they're jumping up onto a upright, which is the field goal posts. We have many volunteers that work with us that are always making sure that the animals are contained. And basically what we do is we're only allowed to have our kittens, which are usually anywhere from like 10 to 12 weeks at that point when they're on our set. But we have very strict scheduling where it's basically, you know, we get a group of kittens, maybe 20 kittens for the 2 teams that are playing in one game, and they're only allowed to be up there for about 45 minutes because, you know, first of all, they get really active and crazy and they're under lights, and we want to make sure that they're okay. But usually after 45 minutes, they just pass out and they're like, time for a nap. So we usually, you know, we take them off the set and they go back into either we do have a huge dressing room, or they go back into the North Shore North Shore Animal League America air-conditioned truck where they're fed and they can rest. So then we move on to a second group of kittens, you know, for the next game that we're doing. And we go through the same thing. We're very regimented that they're only on set for about 45 minutes. And, you know, as we get closer to the end of the day, you know, we give them, they usually have to have like a downtime of at least an hour to 2 hours. So that's why we group them in a certain schedule. So we have to pretty much stay to that schedule. You know, but all of us, when we're either working with an animal, you know, we use a lot of laser pointers and we use balls on strings and everything, you know, and there's times where, you know, a kitten might get too rambunctious, or we love a little like tossing around, little cat fights and little kitten fights. But if something gets too heated, or if we see that, you know, an animal is either getting too exhausted or whatever, we work with North Shore. The animals are the first priority, we all love to get the shots, as Michael has said, but, you know, not at the risk of ever putting an animal at risk, so.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, you guys are amazing. And I love watching you overhead with the toys. So
yeah, we have our fishing poles with footballs and, you know, laser pointers everywhere. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah. Michael, you had run off to get, that's Nelson?
This is Trooper, the boy that started it all. So you have him to thank for all the wonderful shows we've been able to do to help rescue dogs, because he inspired me.
He's lovely. He's so sweet.
He is.
And I was asking, you know, what are some of the rules about working with animals on set? You know, a lot of people probably don't even think about what it takes, or how many hours they can work, or if they have to be replaced by a same looking dog, you know, after a certain amount of time. And each one of you kind of comes from a different aspect of this. And I know from working on American Rescue Dog Show that, you know, you have to be very careful because there are hundreds of dogs together. You know, they have to be kept in different areas. So tell me what you think would be interesting for people to know about how it works behind the scenes.
Sure. Well, as I said, safety is our number one priority and the comfort of the dog. So that is where our focus is from the very beginning. I mentioned my best friend, Jill Gallardi, who created the American Rescue Dog Show along with myself and Jennifer Schultz, who is working behind the scenes to produce this wonderful PAWmicon. Jennifer was the one who actually brought me to Hallmark, and together we were able to get Hallmark to move forward with American Rescue Dog Show. So very grateful to both Jennifer and Jill. On the show, Jill is the one that oversees, I don't like the word casting because it sounds like actors, but the search for the rescue dogs that we feature on the show. And that's a process that starts about 3 months or 4 months before the show actually happens. And it's an extensive process. Everyone that applies with a dog, they have to fill out a lengthy application and give us information on everything from their likes, their temperament, all sorts of things that we're going to take into consideration when we select the dogs. But we also have the forever parents of the dogs that we select. They have a code of conduct agreement, which is basically a list of things that we are requiring of them before they participate on our show. And that includes things like up-to-date vaccinations, and, you know, things like that. On the Fox Cause for Paws show, well, the other thing is we do background checks on everybody because these animals are ambassadors for rescue dogs. And the last thing we want is to have an incident on camera that creates a problem for animals everywhere and unfairly portrays them in the wrong light. So we really do everything we can. So we background check to make sure that both, you know, that the people that are representing the dogs, there's no issues there as far as the way that they treat their animals and all of that. But once they get to the venue, we're checking ahead for weather because we want to make sure that it's not going to be too hot or too cold. And we have contingency plans to make sure we have proper air conditioning or heating, because the last thing we want is a venue that's too hot or too cold. We have a separate staging area. On our show, we believe we have lots of celebrities on our show, as you know, Larissa, but on our show, the dogs are the celebrities, and we treat them like that. So in our holding area, they don't get kennels, they get dressing rooms, and they're big, bright colors, as you know, and they have their star dressing room sign. They get to go to our green room, which is our VIP room, which stands for very important pooch. They get on our show, they don't get a swag bag, they get a wag bag. So we really go the extra mile to make these dogs feel special and to show the viewers that they are not secondhand animals, as I think Bill said earlier. They are magical, and we treat them as such.
I love it. And I can attest to everything you just said. So, okay, I need some fun here. I want to hear what the funniest fail has been, because I personally know, working with animals on set every day, you never know what's going to happen. Whether they're a pure breed or a mutt, whether they are trained to be on set or not, there's always going to be something that happens. So who would like to start this? Because I know everybody has to have some story.
All right. You said earlier, Larissa, we celebrate the perfectly imperfect on the American Rescue Dog Show. And there's nothing we love more than a dog in this fancy Westminster-like environment with judges in tuxedos. There's nothing we like more than the dog trotting and then going over to the flower arrangement to pee. That's gold for us. So that's one example of something that we love. Humping, you know, we don't encourage it, but as producers, there's always a little fun in that, but we always break that up. You know, again, the perfectly imperfect, we've had some dogs decide to, you know, do their business on the green arena floor. That's okay. So those kinds of things are, you know, probably predictable and expected.
I remember once the agility course that you had.
Oh, Yes. So we did an agility segment. These are rescue dogs that compete in agility to show how incredible they are at agility. And we've had this happen a few times, but one of the dogs was so excited, he went through the maze, but then he decided he just wanted to explore the whole studio. So he literally ran out of the tunnel and left the arena floor. And then his forever mom's just like, and then she had to go out through the tunnel, chase him, and then she came back in with him and held him up, to thunderous applause. So yes, that's a great moment.
You never know. Okay, Bill, I'm sure you've got some funny ones, but you come from a slightly different place because you're working with dogs who, you've been working with, as opposed to hundreds of rescue dogs showing up with really no idea what they're supposed to be doing, or kittens. But I'm sure you've had something go wrong in a funny way.
Oh yeah. I mean, we can't control nature. So any animal trainer that says I can make an animal do anything is just crazy, because they still are sentient beings. They have their own agenda. But we try to create a situation where they're going to have some fun. So, when you're working with, again, I'll bring a trained dog to a set, and you have to create a bond with the actors so that the dog will look at them and not me. And you have to have that in your heart. You have to be an animal lover. Because if somebody doesn't like dogs, why is the dog going to be loyal to you? So there was a production of The Wizard of Oz, I remember, in Houston, Texas. And the young lady playing Dorothy, they had cast, was not really a dog person. And, somewhere over the rainbow, when we think of Judy Garland and her relationship with Toto, she remained connected to that character, during the song. And I would say to her, you just have to be nice to him. You have to, look at him, smile at him, pet him, and he'll look at you. Her opening night, she decided that she would rather sing the song than interact with Toto. And so when my animals feel like they're not being loved, they walk off stage. Except she didn't know that because she was downstage, and Toto got up and walked off, and the audience started laughing. And she sang louder, and she sang louder until she got to the end and turned to go and realized he was gone and panicked. I mean, so right there, the dog was looking to, make a connection. She wasn't into it, so he left.
It sounds like some first dates.
And I tell producers, directors all the time, cast people who love animals, because they will know if you don't. And it doesn't matter how much roast beef you put in their pocket. If you don't love them, they're not going to love you back. I've got one more story. We were doing Legally Blonde, the musical, and we were premiering on Broadway. We tried out in San Francisco, and the bulldog character was so well received. They wrote another scene for her. And this little bulldog named Nellie loved performing. She loved the people, and she'd get really excited to go on stage. And so I was a little concerned about this second scene we were doing. Was it going to work? Was she going to go? And first preview at the Palace Theater in New York, New York, she runs on stage, so happy, she vomits and continues to do her behaviors. Well, I knew that she was excited and happy. So I thought it was fine. They had to clean it up and move on. And, it was a big thing, and the audience went crazy. But it just showed to me that she wasn't frightened at all. In fact, she was overexcited and vomited right on stage.
Oh, that's never would I say how cute. Oh my goodness. Okay, Kathy, now you have a very interesting take on this, because working with kittens is a job in itself, whether you're on screen or behind the scenes or in your own home with 20 kittens. But tell me what goes on there, because even I've had some funny incidents working with Kitten Bowl, and them crawling on your leg when you're trying to hold them, and you never know.
Well, I say forget the Housewives of Beverly Hills, Kitten Bowl, and I'm sure all of Michael's rescue shows. They are the ultimate reality, because you never, ever know what's going to happen. So I just remember, I think it was Kitten Bowl 6, and I was on set. We were just getting ready to start shooting, And I was like, what is happening? I had my PL, which is like a little mic that goes into the other producer's ears, and it has a little thing. Well, I had 4 kittens climbing up my legs, trying to get at the wire they just wanted to play. And I was like, I had kitten pants because they were just stuck to me. And I was like, we had to pull them down. And as soon as we pulled them down, they were like, we're not giving up. They climbed up again. And I was just like, okay, I think I need to get off stage now because I'm becoming part of the apparatus and they need to go play with the toys. So yeah, that's always a good. And then one year we had a really, really active kitten and we were following it as one of our star players. I can't remember if it was Rob Gronkowski or Joe Montuna or whoever the kitten's name was, named after a famous, football star. And we're like, where did the kitten go? Because what you don't see on Kitten Ball is at the sides of the set, we have our litter boxes that we don't really like to show. But, when you got to go, right? So we're looking for this cat and we're like, where did he go? Where did he go? And he's like in the litter box on the side of the set. So rather than going, oh my God, let's, trying to get him back, we just called it a litter box infraction and had our referee call it a delay of game.
Oh, that's funny.
So we shot the kitten. He like popped up in the litter box. It was like, where is he? Where is he? Uh-oh, timeout. There's a foul called by the ref and it was a litter box infraction. So
that's
but we always say, you gotta go, you gotta go.
You improvised. That's
By the way, if I can just say real quick, speaking of improvising, so like, for example, we had a contestant, he's a kind of a well-known dog, Mo the Screaming Staffy, who was in the best in talking category. And you may remember, so he came out on the arena floor and then his forever mom's like, what really makes him kind of scream is steak or food. So it's like, as a producer, you go, well, let's get some steak. So we went and had some roast beef and behind the camera, put a little plate there. And we had his forever dad cutting it behind the camera to get that out of him. So you kind of figure out how to do what you have to do. I have been known for my dog noises because I will get behind the camera because we want to get them to connect to the lens. So I'll stand behind the camera and you might see me doing this. Whatever you have to do to get them to, connect.
Before I have to turn this back over to Jessica, but Michael, before we leave, I have to tell you, I have many videos and photos of you sitting on the floor, making funny noises and faces. Yeah. And mind you, Mo, the screaming dog, I will never forget how much steak you had to show him because he was silent for a while and then finally started. But anytime you want people to do something, of course, they're going to say, no, not now.
Exactly.
Well, thank you all so much. I wish we had more time to keep talking. I want to know more tips and tricks, but I'm going to turn it over to Jessica Gerk with Helen Woodward Animal Care and do some question and answers with you guys.
Hey, really quick, Larissa, I just want to thank you for everything you do. You're not just the lady on camera talking about how great adoption is. You are walking the walk every single day. You are out in the trenches helping animals, and I couldn't be more proud to be your friend. I love you so much.
I love you too, and I'm so happy to know all of you. So thank you.
Thank you.
I couldn't agree more. And I do want to tell you guys that nobody is getting any work done at Helen Woodward. Everybody's been watching this. Everybody's like, I can't get my work done. This is the best panel. Everybody is really enjoying everything that you guys had to say. We, of course, are all animal lovers, and we love to see people who have dedicated their lives to these incredible creatures. So we've been getting a lot of questions. I know we only have 15 minutes left. I wish we could talk to you guys for like 3 hours, but I'm going to just kind of go through some of the questions that I have. We'll see how many we can get through. I'm going to start with a question that's for Bill. It says, when seeking a trainer for your dog, how can you determine the best person suited to help you reach your dog goals, like whatever your specific dog goals are?
Oh, that's a great question. Because I'm self-taught and I developed a positive reinforcement training, when you see an ad for me, it says, theatrical dog trainer needed, no dog training experience, must love dogs. Because taking someone who's been trained in another method that may be a little punitive and then trying to retrain them into my method, all you need is a good heart. If you care about your animals, you will do the right thing for the animal. And that's where we start. Literally people who have no training experience, but have always loved dogs.
That's great. Great answer.
Interesting.
Love, heart. We're looking for heart, right? Okay, for Kathy, how do you cast kittens? I think this might be somebody who wants to get their kitten into the spotlight. They say, how do you know they're going to have the right energy for the gridiron? Is what the question is specifically.
Well, our kittens from Hallmark Channel, from North Shore Animal League, all of the kittens that you see every year on Kitten Bowl are all up for adoption. Like all of them are up for adoption. But during, the show, Beth Stern does some live adoptions for us as well, because she's a huge foster mom. That's our host. So we really don't really cast. They basically show up with their, North Shore Animal League America shows up with their huge, and we go through the things and we go, well, this guy's a little active and this guy's a little active, or they're playing and so we kind of choose them, but then we love to rotate in and out. But again, all of our animals are up for adoption. So we really don't have, people who own these animals. So that's part of our thing is they are up for adoption. Go to your local shelter. And if you can't get to North Shore Animal League America, which they're all over the country, please go to a shelter near you. However, we have been featuring every year for the last couple of years, packages on amazing rescues or people who have been adopting special needs kittens that we highlight. So, if they're interested, we want to hear their stories. So, I mean, we've had everything from
the shows that you guys are all involved in. I have to say, to me, it's really changing how people view rescue animals. Bill, you mentioned it earlier. I've seen changes literally over the last 10 years. And so much of it has to do with all the beautiful work that you guys are doing and getting out the beauty of rescue animals. So we're so grateful to all of you. Let's see, I've got a question for Michael. Michael, what qualities are you looking for in each contestant for American Rescue Dog Show? Because I know you get a lot of contestants and you guys have to kind of narrow it down to your tops. And what are you looking for?
Well, I'm assuming you're talking about the dogs and not the people.
Yes.
Because I could give you a lot of qualities we're looking for with the people. But can you imagine getting thousands of submissions and having to select 80 out of them? You should see the room of producers and rescue experts going through all the submissions. I mean, we want to put them all on the show. So it's challenging. And what we tell people also is, if your dog isn't selected for a certain category, it doesn't mean that they weren't amazing, but we're also trying to represent diversity amongst dogs and the breeds and the genders and the ages. So we may already have, a purebred this or a mix that, or three Basset hounds already in our show. And we want to give opportunities to other breeds and other mixes. So that might be the reason, but then we encourage them to come back the following year. And because our categories are usually action specific, so whether it's or characteristic specific, so best ears, best smile, best talking, all of that, we're looking for the best of the best, and we're looking for the ones that are going to make the audience laugh and smile.
Yeah, that's fantastic, because I do know that people get surprised when they look at the animals that are on your show and they think, I can't believe that that's a rescue dog. And I think it's getting rid of that kind of
stigma
that the only thing you can find in shelters or, I always say there are purebred rescues across the country. So you can find.
And, we can beat people over the head all day long preaching the message, but when we show them, when we show that these dogs out of a shelter are in this, fancy or Westminster-like arena atmosphere, I think it's that dichotomy. I think it's that seeing that and entertaining them in that way that really resonates and has made the show so incredibly successful.
That's absolutely wonderful. Now I'm going to ask Larissa this question. So now, what are some of the different ways, because you're constantly working with animals, when you, let's say you're handed, let's say, a rescue animal and you're about to go on for a segment, what are the different ways that you ensure that they're comfortable and that you're going to get the best segment?
Oh my goodness, this is a hard one because I don't think people have, well, I know I'm preaching to the choir, but most people have no idea what it takes. So if, I try to have a little storyline of the dog prior to meeting them. So a little information, whether I talk to the handler or the rescuer or my producer does. So I kind of have a heads up because a lot of the dogs, they are the best dogs in the world, but you're taking them from either a home environment or a shelter environment, and you're suddenly bringing them onto a set where there's big cameras, there's big things being wheeled in and out, there's men that are in all black that are walking around, and so to a dog who's never been there before, there's a lot of stimulation. So we try to get them there plenty of time before the segment. That way we can walk them around the set, they can sniff, they can meet, the different people, they can be around the cameras. Sometimes we'll have the cameramen wheel the cameras around so that the dog kind of gets used to it before it all starts happening when the cameras are actually rolling. We'll have the cameramen, and they are so fabulous. Sometimes if, because some of them are these big guys, they'll get on the ground with the dog and give them a treat. Get used to it. Someone's getting a call. Sometimes the dog will get there right before we go on, which is a little bit more challenging because they might be up, they don't know what's going on. So they might decide that they want to jump off the couch or on the couch or under my legs or whatever. We just try to go with it and, just make the best of it because, here's the thing, people watching are seeing these animals and what they might be like in a home environment. And so this might be what you're going to get if a dog is really active and fun and, jumping around. The other thing is I've learned I can't wear skirts or dresses because I have to be able to be in every position possible. And last but not least, with cats being the hardest, I realized that I would sit with a cat and I'd be really quiet and let the cat be calm in my arms. And then we would get moving and the cameras would turn on and I'd start talking and the cat would freak the heck out. And so now I've learned to keep talking, even if, before the camera's on, I just keep talking. I'm talking to myself. I may look really stupid, but I'm getting the cat used to the, the vibration and the sound so that when the camera turns on, it's not such a jarring move. And I've also learned to wear the same pants over and over because they always get clawed.
I was going to say never wear sweaters because cats just love to claw.
I literally have to think about what animals are coming in each morning when I choose my clothes, because if it's a cat, there are certain shirts I cannot wear. If it's a small dog and I'm going to be holding it, there are, it's funny. You learn all the tricks of the trade. And last thing I'll say, the cheese, what are they called? The cheese sticks? Why can't I think of what they are?
Cheese?
String cheese. Those have come in handy often because I'll hold it and they can only get to a little bit. So it keeps them occupied for the few minutes we're on.
Those are great tips and things that probably people don't even think about when you've got it. Fantastic. Okay, so here is a question that I don't know who might have an answer for it. Somebody has asked, how do you find an agent for your pet? Does anybody know an answer to that?
I'm an animal agent.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, and it's interesting. I get probably 50 emails a week saying, I've got a really cute dog. I want to get into show business. Mm-hmm. And I'll write back, okay, is it trained? No. Have you ever been on a set? No. But people come up to me on the street and say it should be in show business. So, you can't just take someone's pet and turn it into a working animal. So, if you just Google animal agents, you'll find them in New York, you'll find them in LA. Those are about the only two places because that's where the work is. And call them, send them an email, we'll answer it. And if you have a humanely trained animal, I'll be your agent.
Got it. And is there something specific, like if somebody out there in the world thinks, I have this pet, it's so calm, it's so tolerant, it lets me dress it up. Is there something specific that they would probably need to check before they know that their animal actually might be an animal that would be on a set?
Yes. We'll train our animals in our training room. And just like people will train them in their living room, and they'll be great. But then we have to desensitize them to different places and different people. So before we ever bring an animal to a set, we have taken that long road of bringing them to a high school or bringing them to a mall or and desensitizing them and asking them to do those behaviors in those situations. If they're comfortable enough to do that, then they can come on a set. So, make sure before you even reach out to us, make sure your animal's gonna have a good time. It's having a good time in your living room. May not have a good time on a big set.
By the way, Jessica, I put all my dogs on all my shows. I'm like the Kris Jenner of dogs parents. I call myself a dogager. Nelson was actually on the American Rescue Dog Show with my partner, Mark, but he wasn't allowed to compete, or he wasn't allowed to win because that would be considered nepotism. Ba-dum-bum.
Love it.
There you go.
I love an animal pun. I think
Yes.
anybody that works with
Yes.
animals loves
I knew you would love that.
Okay, I have one final question. We've only got 2 minutes left, but I'd love each person to answer if possible. I love this question, and it was, are there any animals that you've worked with that stand out in your memory as a highlight? Are there any of all the shows you guys have done, out of all the segments, any training, some animal that like somehow was unique and different and touched your heart? And Michael, why don't we go ahead and start with you?
Okay, I'll be brief. Beef the Bulldog is very memorable on our show. Just the face, the slobber, the tongue hanging out. He was so amazing that when he went down the arena floor, the audience chanted, beef, 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 beef. And he really touched people, so we brought him back. Sadly, we lost him this year, but what's great about our show is when these dogs, when they go to the Rainbow Bridge, what a memory for their family to have participated on a show like Kitten Bowl or the American Rescue Dog Show. It's a wonderful thing.
Absolutely, that's beautiful.
And Sweet Pea. Sweet Pea's another one that I just want to throw out there. A magical, magical dog.
What kind of dog was Sweet
A pity, a wonderful pity, senior
Great
dog.
name for a pity. I love a gentle name.
Yeah.
I love that. How about you, Kathy?
Well, Cat Bowl, we did Cat Bowl for 2 years, and we got a call from Beth Stern, who's our host, and she had basically taken in this poor kitten who was adult cat, who had lived with his owner for 13 years, and the owner passed away. And the cat was just beyond, he never knew what it was like. He wound up at North Shore Animal League America. She was never left alone before. She was so distraught about, her owner passing away. Beth took her in as one of her fosters. Beth does like a gazillion fosters. Xena was her name. She immediately fell in love with Beth Stern's husband, Howard. They thought about keeping her. She came and played on Cat Bowl and was just this big, lovable mush. I just remember all the other cats walking out, the adult cats, and Xena was a rather chubby little girl. And she walked out, and all of our camera guys melted, and they were like, whoa, look at that cat. I swear to God, I kept holding her, and I thought about taking her home until Beth said, I found the perfect people. Oh. They want a senior cat. They had just lost their senior cat, and she got them adopted. But Xena, she's doing well. She's happy in her new home. She's got her second chance. Oh. And Xena will always be an adult cat that will live in my heart forever, because I almost took her home, but I found her the perfect home.
Okay, we're over, but I'd love real quickly, maybe 30 seconds each, if Larissa and Bill, I'd love to hear your favorite highlight animals.
Bill, go for it.
Well, I'm lucky that I get to train them. They live with me. Like I'm surrounded right now by 25 dogs in my house.
Wow.
So of the 400 dogs that I've trained in the last 40 years, there are like 5 super dogs that, you know, they're the dogs that mean the most to us because they have that special thing. So the original Sandy, I had a pit bull named Reba who did Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, who led a pack of dogs. She was great. The Chihuahua from Legally Blonde, Chico, he touched my heart and was the bravest little guy I ever saw. And now I have a dog named Bodie, who's a doodle rescue, who's starring in a show called Because of Winn-Dixie. So they're all great, but those are the ones that just had that second sense and connected with me in a different way.
I love that. I call them doomans, dog humans. They're just
Great.
yeah. And what about you, Larissa?
I've so many I can't even say, but the one that probably sticks out most is Bam Bam, who is Michael Levitt's producer's dog, who comes every year to American Rescue Dog Show, who this year decided that my dress, as I was kneeling down, was going to be a tree stump and peed all over my gown. My beautiful, expensive gown. And I have video of it because I was trying to do something and you hear me go, ah, you peed on me. So that was memorable.
They keep us grounded.
And you handled it like a champ.
Well, I love you all. I can't tell you how grateful we are. We all thank you, and all the orphan animals at Helen Woodward Animal Center. Thank you so much for your time and your beautiful stories and the heart and all that you give to animals. Literally, you guys have dedicated your life to helping animals, and we are so grateful to know you all. So thank you, Larissa, Kathy, Bill, and Michael. From the bottom of our hearts, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you for having us. It was wonderful.
We had so much fun. Have a great day.
Bye, everyone. Go out and rescue an animal.
Yes.
Thank you. Bye-bye.